Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today we'll be looking at BfA leveling plan. I've laid out a plan for myself in which way I'm going to level, which zones I'm going to do first, how I'm going to prepare for this, and what talents I'm going to be using as a balanced druid, because I decided to level as a balanced druid. Druids are pretty good at leveling, you can pull mobs a lot and things like that, and these some weird builds that have emerged as one of the best ways to level. Now, for the people who are considering leveling, I highly advise people to actually try out running War Mode. War Mode is going to increase your leveling speed by quite a bit, and also the fact that, you know, War Mode will open up the world PvP. Group leveling is going to be strong for this because people are not going to pick a fight when they're outnumbered, so I do advise people to really level in groups, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be leveling with other players, discipline priests, rogues and things like that, and my talents and PvP talents are going to highly depend on this, because once you unlock War Mode, you get 4 choices of new PvP talents, and some of these are incredibly strong and going to affect your leveling gameplay. So first of all, as a balanced druid, there is the Moonfire spam build. This is how you're going to be leveling, or this is one of the ways to level as a balanced druid. Go into bear form and spam Moonfire. And you know why this is so strong? Because you can pick up mobs, you can just Moonfire them, and you can move on to the next quest location while spamming Moonfire and killing them pretty fast, because Moonfire is so strong. And why is Moonfire so strong? Because of some specific talents. PvP talent called Crescent Burns. Using Moonfire on a target already afflicted by Moonfire's damaging over time effect deals 35% additional direct damage. Twin Moons, Moonfire deals 20% increased damage, and then on top of that, you have a lot of specific legendaries for balanced druids, which increase your Moonfire damage through legendary shoulders, through Guardian Druid back, which means you have to, while in bear form, you deal 30% increased nature and arcane damage, and you are healed for 30% of that damage. So that's actually insane in terms of troop, in terms of damage, and in terms of survivability, because you're going to get healed. And now, let's go over some of the talent choices. And because of this synergy between so many different talents that affect Moonfire, you can go into bear and Moonfire for all day. You can do it all day. Now keep in mind that at 116, at level 116, your legendaries will no longer work. And a lot of guides and things will tell you that you should probably go spec into Guardian Druid, because Guardian Druid is going to provide more survivability. You'll be able to pull more mobs and things like that. Now, it's all up to you about whether you have a Guardian spec or whether you have a tank spec. That's almost applicable to every single class out there. Leveling as a tank is a very legitimate choice and a very recommended one as well. So, what I'm going to be doing, like I mentioned, I'm going to be leveling in a group. I'm going to go with Force of Nature. I could go with Nature's Balance, but I'm going to go with Force of Nature because these are basically I'm going to get 3 tanks for 10 seconds every 1 minute. It's pretty good in terms of controlling mobs and things like that. Now in here you'll notice that, you know, in tier 30, Tiger Stash, Wild Charge, both are good. You can go with any of those. At 45, it really depends. Relative Affinity will give you some passive healing and allow you to use Rejuvenation, Swiftment, and even Wild Growth. Now this can be really good in solo scenarios where you need that extra healing. In group scenarios, you might be better off going with Feral Affinity with increased movement. It really depends on what your group needs, because my group will have a Discipline Priest. That Discipline Priest can deal damage and heal me up, no problems. Now, tier 60, Mass Entanglement is extremely strong. You can, you know, sometimes even combine it with things like Deep Root, PvP talent if you really want to do it, but you don't have to. You don't have to. So I'm gonna go Mass Entanglement anyway. Mob Control is strong. 75, it really depends. Soul of the Forest or Star-Lord. If you're running with this bear build, you probably won't be spending a lot of time outside of bear build, and you won't be using a lot of Starfalls or Star Surges, so it really kind of loses some of its value. But I decided to go with Soul of the Forest. Maybe I'll swap over to Star-Lord at a certain point, because I'm leveling in a group and I decided to go with Moonkin Aura. So whenever you Star Surge, all allies within 40 yards have their spell critical chance increased by 15%. So this is a PvP talent that I purely chose for leveling build, and I want to provide my other party members with critical strike. So I might be going with Star-Lords, might be using Star Surge once in a while once I'm capping that Astral Power in bear form, in order to provide that extra critical bonus to the target members. And because I'm running tier 21 4-set bonus when you cast Star Surge, the damage of Moonfire and Sunfire spells is also increased, so that's a little bit of a bonus again. Now this is the way I'm going to be doing it. It does not mean it's the most optimal way of doing it, but this is what I chose to do. This is what I chose to do. So at tier 90, this is probably the most important one. You cannot not spec into Twin Moons. Twin Moons is mandatory here. You have to do it. At tier 100, Shooting Stars, Fury of the Loon, it all depends on what you want to do. Keep in mind that if you do spec into Fury of the Loon, you can use it in bear form. And keep in mind that if you do spec in Force of Nature, you can use that as well in bear form. So you don't actually have to exit your bear form. You can keep spamming that Moonfire all day long and get some really, really nice results with it. So make sure you just add it to your bars and things like that. So like I mentioned, I'm leveling in a group scenario. If you're leveling solo, your talents and your PvP talents might look a little bit different. You see, I also spec'd into, in terms of PvP, I spec'd into Thorns. Thorns can be really strong, especially if you're being ganked. This is really, really strong. I'm also considering that because I am running in bear form, I am moonfiring a lot, that I'm going to be pulling a lot of the threat from the party, so the mobs might attack me more. Sometimes I might go in and actually activate Thorns and we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to test that out in the future. There is a couple of other PvP talents that are available, but this is, like I mentioned, this is what I'm going to go for leveling. Now, which zones and which areas I'm going to go first. Now, Voldoom is an area that I'm probably going to go head to first, because it's one of those areas that a lot of people kind of disagree about whether they should go first or second or third or whatever, because Voldoom can be considered as one of the hardest leveling areas because the mobs are quite hard, and also the fact that mobs are kind of spread out. So people are saying you either leave it last because it has a lot of quest rewards for items. So if you're like 118, 119, maybe even close to leveling or whatever, you might pick up some really nice gear that you're going to be using in your heroic dungeons. But if you don't really care about that and you want to get over it, you want to get that zone finished first because it's quite hard, do Voldoom when you still have your legendaries. Do Voldoom when you still have your legendaries. It's going to simplify or make it much easier because it is a relatively hard zone. After that, I'm going to go to Nazmir and then Zuldazar. Now you can kind of swap those around if you really want to. But the general consensus on leveling for BfA is to use the Scrapper to your advantage. Now Scrapper is a way to actually disenchant your greens, blues, or whatever gear you have, to disenchant it into raw materials. Raw materials like for your plate items, you'll be able to get ore. For your jewelry, like rings and whatever, you'll be able to get gems. So all of a sudden you have a good way of getting raw materials that are going to be relatively expensive at the very start of the expansion. So what I'm going to do is level in Voldoom first. I'm going to level in Voldoom. I'm going to make sure to finish all the quests, get all the gear in my bags, make sure not to vendor them. Once I finish, I'm going to go fly to the main faction hub, which is somewhere around here. I'll go to the faction hub. This Scrapper is actually somewhere here from when I remember. I use the Scrapper, I get all the raw materials, I go to the war campaign zone, or at least it's going to be a ship somewhere here where you can go to finish your war campaigns. Once you finish a couple of those war campaigns, you can go back to your next zone. I go to Nazmir, finish all my Nazmir quests, get all the items, go back to the faction hub and use the Scrapper again, and rinse and repeat 3 times. You'll get a lot of raw material, you'll get a lot of items, you'll make quite a bit of gold out of this. Now, in terms of preparation for the whole leveling, you can consider stocking up on flasks. I have a lot of int flasks because I know at the start when BfA hits, it's going to cost a lot of gold to get the BfA flasks. And considering that it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks to actually unlock the real content, which is the Mythic Plus and raids, you will be doing a lot of heroic, normal dungeons and things like that in order to get gear. And it's not always warranted to use the best flasks because they're gonna cost so much. So I got a lot of int flasks that are cheap and nice. I'm gonna use them for the content that I don't consider to be relatively hard, at least at the start. I also have Bear Tartar for movement speed, which is really strong. Augment Rune is pretty handy at the very start. You can also use things like, Tome of the Tranquil Mind, which still work in BfA. This might change. I haven't seen the new version of the Tome of the Tranquil Mind, so I'm a bit skeptical at this moment. But this is a good way to stock up some of these items. Make sure you have a lot of bag space because like I mentioned before, you have to complete a whole zone. You have to make sure you pick up all of the items, and then you're going to go back to your faction hub and you're going to use the Scrapper. Now, this is one of the important things. What professions I'm going to be going with. Now, professions, are kind of cool right now in BfA, because once you step into your new zone, into the new zone for your Horde or Alliance character, you'll be able to pick up 2 new professions if you want to. And dropping and acquiring new professions in BfA is a lot easier. It's not as cumbersome as it was in Legion, so you can really drop them quite... Like, I mean, you don't have to stick with one for the whole leveling experience. So what I'm doing is basically I'm picking up gathering professions, things like herbalism and mining, because let's be honest, there's going to be a lot of gold made from those. Scrapper, when you use plate armor on within the scrapper, you'll be able to get ore. So mining, my prediction is that eventually ore is not going to be that expensive because you'll be able to get it through scrapper. But herbalism, the only way to get herbs is through picking them and using herbalism as well. So I feel herbs are going to be quite expensive. So I'm going to go herbalism, mining for the start of my leveling experience. And when I'm 120, I will drop mining in terms of, or I want to pick up inscription in terms of instead of mining, because inscription is really strong right now because of the reputation gain through contract buffs. And now contract is basically something that you can make as a scribe, which is going to increase reputation gain with a certain faction when you complete world quests. So why don't they use inscription from the very start? Because basically world quests are going to open when you're 120. You need to be friendly with that faction and things like that. So it's not really going to be, at least in my eyes, optimal to pick up inscription at the very start instead of picking up gathering professions where you can get some real gold out of them. I would, like I mentioned, I will drop my mining, pick up inscription, get those contract buffs. And why do I care about the contract buffs? Why do I care about reputation? Because there is a specific faction, or at least all the factions, most of the factions can give you really nice rewards, really nice gear, so you should try to get exalted with them when the raid hits and things like that. But Champions of Azeroth is one of the faction hubs, or one of the faction reputations that are really powerful right now, because they will increase the item level of your Heart of Azeroth, which is your neck, and increasing the item level of your Heart of Azeroth. Heart of Azeroth gives you amazing stats, and the only other way to increase Heart of Azeroth is through AP Azerite. It's really strong. Getting exalted with Champions of Azeroth is really optimal, and one of the best ways to do it is through using contract buffs, which are available to scribes. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to pick that up. Like I said before, those reputation gains are only available when you complete world quests, and world quests only unlock at 120. So this is my reasoning for it. Overall, I feel this plan is pretty okay. It's what I'm going to do right now. I'm sure there's better ways to improve this. I'm actually extremely tired right now when I'm doing this video, because I'm getting ready for that 24-hour stream when BfA launches. So keep in mind there might be some things that could be improved. Let me know if you enjoy this Moonfire spam build. I'm gonna try this out. Thank you guys for watching this guide. Let me know how you're going to level. Let me know whether you're going to go Horde Alliance or who's your main character and things like that. Thank you guys, and I'll see you when BfA launches.